The heavyweight clash between Fabio Wardley and Justis Huni is upon us. This is a really exciting fight between two potentially top heavyweights. Wardley is fairly unorthodox and Huni is something of an unknown quantity for many people. So in this video, what I'm going to try and do is break down for you the core tactical factors that I believe can have a major influence on the outcome of this fight. Stick around to the end of this one, guys, as I try to reveal as many of the key tendencies and moments from these two fighters as I possibly can, and try to start building a picture of who I think is going to win this fight. Hello everyone, welcome back to a guy called Henry. Guys, we are in fight week for this Fabio Wardley Justis Huni fight, and it's a very interesting one. I don't want to go into this video with any preconceptions or any ideas about who I thought was going to win this. I really wanted to just come in with a clean slate, a clean, fresh mind, and really try to judge this one objectively. Because Huni is something of an unknown quantity. I hadn't really watched much of him before, but I've been hearing all these, big things about him, all these good things about him. Seen a couple of really exciting looking highlight reels, but often fighters can look really good on the surface, but underneath, there's a lot that's going quite wrong. And likewise with Fabio Wardley, he's somebody that I always thought would have a pretty low ceiling when he was coming through, just because of that really basic analysis of he came from a white-collar background, didn't have much of an amateur career, how much can this guy really achieve? But actually, he does a lot of things really well. And doing this analysis was really helpful for me because I got to really learn intimately a lot more about these two guys, their tendencies, what it is they do and don't like to do. And what I will say is this from the off. There's so many things I could say about what they're doing. So what I've really tried to do is boil this video down into what the key things are, the core things are, the things that I really think are going to make a difference in this fight and potentially be decisive in the outcome between these two. Before I jump into this one, guys, don't forget to bang a like on the video if you do indeed like it. Don't forget to subscribe to a guy called Henry. If you're someone that's been watching for a while, especially, I think there's quite a lot of you that are watching the channel, but aren't actually subscribed. So I would appreciate if you do that and hit the notification bell. Get your comments in the comment section below. Who do you think is going to win this fight? What do you think of some of the things I've observed? Do you think I've missed anything? And finally, if you'd like to support the channel, there is a link in the description to become a channel member. It's only a couple of quid a month. I want as many of you supporting the channel as possible. If you enjoy what I'm doing here, it helps to keep me independent, impartial, and objective. And there's a few perks as well. Anyway, the link is in the description for that, so I'd really appreciate your support if you think it's worth it. So to begin with, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how I see each guy's fighting style on a sort of a high level. And then I'm going to jump into some very specific details that I have analyzed from their recent performances. Now, we'll start with Fabio Wardley. And I think the thing that really underpins Fabio Wardley as a fighter is bravery and ferocity and just raw fighting instinct. This is a guy whose reaction to getting hit is kind of the warrior's instinct. It's the fighter's instinct. He will always fight fire with fire. And he's got the punching power to go with it, to make this make sense. He's somebody that I feel has overperformed to a degree and outperformed probably his level of technical ability because he is such a scrapper. You get guys that get in the ring with him, a la Fraser Clark, who probably you could say were better boxers, guys that had a much more extensive amateur schooling is what I would say. And it doesn't mean you're a better pro overall, but just in terms of raw technical boxing, I think Fraser Clark is probably a bit better than Fabio Wardley. But what Fabio Wardley had, that Fraser Clark doesn't have the same amount of, is just that raw desire to absolutely smash his opponent. And you'll see Wardley often, he'll take one to give one. He's the kind of guy that is always looking for the KO, always looking for the stoppage, and he definitely knows how to get his man out of there when he gets them hurt. So great power, speed's pretty good too. He's got a good gas tank. He's dangerous throughout the 12 rounds. He's got a very good chin, and he's just got great resilience and great heart. But on top of that, I also think he's quite a smart guy, and I believe he has the ability to go and execute a very specific game plan. I do believe that the brains behind him in Ben Davison and Lee Wiley are able to give him certain strategies, but he's able to go and execute them in the ring. Not all guys can do that. To be able to remain calm under fire, to not resort back to certain bad tendencies when things get tough, and they have got tough in there for him. He's shown a lot of ability and a lot of aptitude in a number of different areas in the boxing ring. I also think he's got pretty decent feet too. They're not super fast, but they're not ploddy either, and he's got decent balance. And actually, I'd say the main way that he defends is through range control, using his balance, using his feet, taking little half steps here and there. Now, Justis Huni, on the other hand, is a very interesting fighter because there's not many heavyweights like him in the division right now. He has what I would describe as exceptionally fast hands. For a heavyweight, his combination punching and his speed is very impressive. And you'll often see him, going upstairs, going downstairs, putting together 3-4 punch combinations, pivoting off, using great footwork. He's got very nice lateral movement. And he's definitely a flashy looking boxer. I can see why he's been chosen as an opponent. It will put on, he's definitely going to put on a good display in there. Obviously, he's a late replacement for Jarrell Miller. But honestly, I'm much more interested in seeing Huni in there. I really am, because he's a young prospect. He's up and coming. He's not quite cracked the top 10 of the division, in my mind anyway. Some of the governing bodies would probably have him in there at the minute. I think the WBO have him sort of number 3 or 4. But in my mind, to really crack that top 10, consensus top 10, he needs a big win like this. And there's definitely a lot to like about Huni on the surface, that's for sure. I also think he's a really quite an effective counter-puncher. He's really got decent head movement too. Uses a nice high guard when he wants to defend. He's got a variety of different ways he can defend, often looks to parry as well. I will be analysing all of this and showing you where I think the mistakes are that can be capitalised on for both men. Both have vulnerabilities, weaknesses, and things the other man will look to exploit. Now, I think what I'm going to do to begin here, this first chapter of the video, is going to be all about how Huni's offense creates its own defensive gaps, and how some of the ways that he defends indeed also create defensive gaps. I think Huni's really talented, but there are definitely things you can get him to do that don't work in his favor. I've seen things happen to him in the ring where I sort of look at it and I go, I think that's something that can be exploited and manipulated by Fabio Wardley. So this is the first thing I'm going to show you. Now, you can see here that Huni, he's sort of moving laterally here. He's moving around the outside of the ring. It's something you see him do quite often. He can end up on the ropes from time to time, and we will get into that. But right now, just looking at his sort of default mode, this is his fight against Kevin Lerena. Now, first thing to say is Lerena is a southpaw. His jab is always is his right hand. That's always his lead hand. So there's some differences in positioning, but I think the gaps he's able to exploit will work in Orthodox too, which is why I've sort of looked at this fight. I think it was probably Huni's hardest fight. And so I think it's probably the most useful one for us to look at, because one of the problems with Huni is he's not really fought a high level of opposition yet. So it's really tough to know exactly what he'll look like, how he'll shape up when he's in there with a tougher fighter. Sometimes guys get in there and they're just chilling because, they're not worried about what's in front of them. With Lerena, at the very least, he showed Huni he should have been worried. So anyway, he's moving laterally here, and you'll see the main thing I want to show you here is his hands are low. And that's okay. He's in a safe space right now. You can see the gap between them is big enough. And what I'll show you here is this. He bounces there and he throws the right hand. Now look, I know that he's far away when he throws that, so he can afford to be a little loose. But what you're going to see in the next few clips is this is a consistent theme with Huni. So you see he throws the right hand. It does land not super powerfully because he's fully extended. But you see where his lead hand is. It's super wide. His arms are totally like this and open. And you'll see it lands and then he sort of falls in a little bit. And you see the way he drops forward there as well. Like his body position is very much arching forward, which it's not great when you're falling forward like that and you've got your hands low. And then you see, he kind of steps around and he's okay. But that's a position that he ends up in quite a bit. Now watch again here as he lands this right hand. So he's in range here. You can see they're pretty close. And you see, again, his hands are low. And this is a thing you'll see with Huni. Because he is fast and twitchy, I think he likes his hands low because it's more relaxed and so he can be even twitchier and even faster. But I think he's got enough speed that he doesn't necessarily need to do that to create the speed. But anyway, you see here, he throws the backhand. It does land. It's a good right hand. But first thing I want to show you is look where his lead hand is. It's low. And then the second thing I want to show you is as that right hand comes back, it comes back to his chest area. So there's two opportunities there where the hands have dropped a bit. This is an interesting moment as well. And I think that one of his biggest strengths is when he's in the pocket, he's quite good at moving his head and finding angles, finding opportunities. But you'll see here, Lorena's in front of him with a high guard, and Huni's sort of pivoting side to side. And watch here, he dips down to his left, fires in a left uppercut, which breaks the guard slightly, and then he fires the right hand straight through. And that is nice. That is definitely good work. But watch here, look at that. Look where his hands are. There and there. Low hands again. And, Lorena's chosen to take a step back there, but you'll see what Wardley does that makes this problematic. You will. I'll show you. Don't worry, we're going to get to it. And just to show you now, this is what happens when he consistently does this. Because after a while, any really decent boxer, even a low-level boxer, will start to read what you're doing. And I'm sure that Lorena has spotted this flaw in Huni, how he drops his hands, especially when throwing the right hand. He drops them often in many different phases, but the right hand in particular. Now watch here, what he does is quite nice. So watch, he flourishes the right hand, he dips down. And it's something he quite likes to do, is he likes to sort of dip down to change the level, and then he'll go upstairs. Because, the expectation is when you dip down, you're going to try and shoot there. But he's good at this. He dips down. So that's a nice part of the move. This is where it goes wrong. So watch, he dips down, he fires up, and then look where his hand is here, and look where his hand is here. So he's hitting the glove. So it's not even a clean right hand, but it's so similar to that first one I showed you where he was a little further out. Now watch what happens. As he's bringing his hand back, it's scandalously low. I mean, look, his hands come back to here, this position. His chin is completely exposed. Completely exposed. He's even squared up. So, he's not even particularly side on. And watch what happens here. Lorena comes back with a massive left hook. And it's obviously that's Lorena's backhand because he is a southpaw. But, you know, anyone who leaves himself that exposed, a lead hook would do the job as well, I believe, in that scenario there. To be honest with you, even a right hand, I mean, he's just open for so many things there. You know, take it the other way around. A right hand straight down the pipe there also would have worked. And he gets clock clean, and you see Huni there. He massively wobbles. In fact, I can just play this for you because this is a DAZN video. Look, he wobbles. He's all over the shop, and he falls backwards, and Lorena sticks it on him. And actually, in the end in this clip, he does really well to recover Huni. But he was properly shaken by that, and you can see then Lorena just sticks it on him, and he shucks his head in the end there. But my point is, we don't just point these things out for the sake of it. You know, the reason those low hands are pointed out, that the tendency is pointed out, is because a good enough fighter can capitalize on that sort of thing. Now, the next thing I want to show you is when he creates opportunities when he's defending. There's two different ways that this really happens, but we're going to deal with this one first, and we'll deal with the second one in a bit. So something he likes to do defensively is parry. He tries to parry, and sometimes it works really well, and when it does, it's so effective and so flowing and nice. He mixes it in with his combinations in a really, really fan-friendly way. Like, the style looks good on the eye, you know? The problem is he often mistimes those parries. And so my recommendation to him is to not try and parry in this fight, to be honest with you. Because I think it's something that Wardley can draw out of him and then make other things happen. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So you can see this moment here. Huni is extending. He's measuring his the distance with his lead arm. Just trying to gauge the distance, keep Lorena at bay, stop him from coming forward. You see their feet are right close together, though, so you know that the moment is on very much for whoever is attacking here. He is in range. And what Huni does often when he parries is that it's quite a specific parry. So you see Lorena dips in here. He goes down and he fires in that body jab. And Huni, you'll see, he parries, but he sort of parries to the shoulder. And it's interesting because the jab does land from Lorena there. But Huni sort of likes to press down ever so slightly on the shoulder, which I suppose forces the jab down to the body rather than the head. But also it stops him from coming any further forward. It sort of blocks his advance. And then Huni can sort of take a little step backwards as he does there, you see. So it takes the momentum off that body jab from Lorena there, which is quite nice. But the shot does land. It is still a scoring shot. And now you can see the problem with it here because Lorena sort of tells him pretty quickly you shouldn't do this. So Lorena actually here, he's got his foot right on top of Huni's, which is a bit cheeky. But anyway, happens quite a lot with Orthodox and Southpaw, and you're never sure if they're doing it deliberately. Sometimes it's an old pro trick. I heard Dave Allen saying the other day that he went and stepped right on Johnny Fisher's foot at the start of one of the rounds in their second fight, where he won by knockout. I've talked about fighters doing it before. Fury does it. Often people get angry and they're like, it's just something that happens. And it can be something that just happens, but it's also a tool. You'll never really know. But look, you'll see it's very similar scenario. He's doing the measure there, trying to keep him from coming in at his own volition. You know, he wants Lorena to second guess himself. So you'll watch what here. It's a very similar scenario. So Lorena dips down, same thing. Huni, this time, though, hasn't fallen him down with the arm, but it's still his tendency to do so. So watch, as his hand drops here, you see, look, Lorena actually ends up not extending the arm fully. He stops it there, just short of the body. And he uses that to leverage the backhand coming over. You know, if you extend the lead, then you pull the right hand over. You don't actually have to throw the jab all the way to the body. It's just to get yourself there. And you'll see, if I just wind it back ever so slightly, you'll see it's a nice technique. He uses that jab to step his foot from there to there. So watch, steps in, and then watch what happens here. He fires it over the top, and you look at where Huni's hands are. Sorry, I should say, his hand is here and here. They're of no use to him there, none. And Lorena is right in the pocket, as I showed you. The foot is right in Huni's space. Fires the backhand over the top. Bosh, that's a nice clean shot right on the chin of Huni there. And he's given him a little shake up there with that shot. And again, just one more scenario with the parrying. You see, look, Lorena steps his foot all the way in, so he's in the pocket again. He's in Huni's space. Huni's leaning back on the ropes, and look at the hand positioning. Lead hand low, right hand here. Lorena fires that backhand in, and it lands on the body. And again, Huni parries, and he's mistimed it again because that has got through. But it bats it away. But the thing is, again, imagine here, you know, that's a feint. He drops that hand down, and suddenly he's exposed for other shots to the chin. And so, yeah, I'm not a fan of his parrying, to be honest with you. I think maybe at this level he got away with it. He almost didn't, but he got away with it. I think a fighter like Fabio Wardley will punish this, and I'm going to show you why I think that, because I think Fabio Wardley's got some really great tools that take advantage of the two main things I've just shown you, the low hand positioning and the fact that he drops his hands a lot to parry. So I'm going to take you now to the Wardley-David Adelaide fight. And for Wardley's highlights, I'm going to be showing you the Adelaide fight, Clark 1 and Clark 2. I think these are the fights that show off the things I want to show you, basically. I'm going to show you how the inviting windows I've presented to you that Justis Huni offers up can be exploited by some things that Fabio Wardley absolutely loves to do. The first thing is the pull counter. Such a classic move. Mayweather's classic move that people always cite him for. It's so nice when it works well. It just looks great. And here's Fabio Wardley's interpretation of that. So you'll see here, Adelaide and Wardley facing off. Now, the main difference with Adelaide is you'll see this right hand is nice and high. So that does help him here. But watch Fabio Wardley. Adelaide fires the jab, fires this jab in, and Wardley, you just see how he pulls back. It's a lovely move, the pull counter, and arches back ever so slightly. And the thing about the pull counter is you can drop your hands because you're gonna fire instantly. That's the whole idea of the pull counter. You pull back, you fire in straight away. So dropping the hands just makes the shot harder to see, I think, and it is okay. I think pull countering balance-wise is much more difficult if you keep your hands up. So I have less of an issue with hands being dropped on pull counters. So you watch, he drops the hand, and then watch what Adelaide does with his jab. He drops it to there, and that's the key. Now watch. Wardley immediately fires back that right hand. And I think, it's hard to tell from this angle, but I think Adelaide catches it partially with his lead hand. I think it gets through slightly, but he actually knocks it out the way. And Adelaide sort of falls off balance ever so slightly. But then he's okay. But the dynamics, the mechanics of that, you can see against Huni, without that right hand being up, which Huni doesn't, would be very, very effective. And here's an even better example. You see here again, Adelaide's got that glove high, but it's a bit loose. It's not, his chin's there, so it's a bit far away from his chin. And then you see his lead hand is low. Wardley's got his hands low, so he's inviting the attack. He wants him to press him. See, Adelaide goes forward with the jab. Wardley pulls back, and you see that. It does catch him on the chin. And I've said this is the risk of Wardley. This is why it's high risk, high reward. He does take punches to give punches, and he takes the sting off ever so slightly with that pullback. You see, I just arched backwards slightly. And because it hasn't really hurt him, he can come with the counter. This time, he loops it over the shoulder a bit more, so it's coming in at sort of this trajectory instead. And you see, look, he's got his right hand up, so fair play to him. You know, that's his pink glove. There's a bit difficult to see. You can see he's got that up. Wardley fires it back over the top, and again, it's that lead hand not coming back to the chin. It's coming back sort of lower, loops it in over the top, and catches him right on the chin there. And you can see that hurt him badly. It's a good shot, and I think that looping right hand from Fabio Wardley, whether it's off a pull counter or whether it's just a lead shot, it's excellent. It's probably his best punch. And you can imagine how Huni, who loves to pile forward with these shots, who likes to throw loose punches, you could just imagine Wardley pull countering one of them from what I've shown you already. And the other thing I want to show you here is how he worked the body really nice with the right hand, Fabio Wardley. So what he would do is he would touch the guard with his lead hand, and he'd take his right hand and fire it into the midsection of Adelaide in this fight. I like it. So the lead hand comes in, occupies the guard, and then you see he creates the space there. And so he fires that right hand in down low. Same thing again here, watch. He touches the guard, occupies those gloves, executes and exploits the space with his backhand. Boom, there you go. Right in there. Lovely. And again here, lead hand occupies. And this one's nice because he does a good job of getting his head off the line. But you see, he touches the backhand. And it's nice from Adelaide. He tries to stop it from happening. But look, Wardley just gets his head off to the side. So the glove goes straight over the top. And he fires into the body again. Now, why am I showing you this? I'm showing you this because in order to get someone to beat to your drum, you got to make them think in the way you want them to think. And I showed you this in my Moses Atama breakdown, who is another Ben Davison fighter. It's also something Anthony Joshua did against Ngannou. And by creating patterns of thinking, making opposition think you're trying to hit them to the body, they start to get worried by it. And now he's using the right hand in this fight, Fabio Wardley. It can be done with the jab too. But you can just imagine, you know, he steps in, he occupies the guard. If every time he's creating this pattern of going low, Justis Huni is going to try and anticipate. And what does he do when he's anticipating? He tries to parry. So if you can get him thinking, I need to parry low, you get him dropping his hands, and then you start firing, winging those right hands in, as he loves to do. I believe that's a pattern that can be created nicely because he is adept at going to the body, Fabio Wardley. And just to show you another example of that looping right hand, this is in the Clark 1 fight. And this time it's not off a pull count, so you'll see here, watch. So Clark steps in with a jab. Wardley, you can see here, look. He risks it all, you know. He really fights on the line, and it's something that it means I'm convinced he's going to get knocked out one day because it is fine margins. But look, he steps into Fraser Clark's jab and gets his head off to the side as he does it. And watch, you can see that backhand there. He's starting to loop it round. And if you watch where Fraser Clark's jab hand ends up, look, his hand ends up there, down at his midriff, and Wardley fires in that backhand. So watch, boom, he hits Fraser Clark clean, and you know a bit of spit flies out, hits him absolutely clean there. And now Fraser Clark is gloved up because he's been hurt. See, he's got the nice high guard up now, but Wardley hits him nice. Head off the line. Lead hand of Clark comes back low, so he lands it really clean. And even if he'd brought it back high, it still might have landed because the timing was impeccable. Again, here at 150, look at the mechanics of this looping right hand. So watch. Steps in and gets his head off to the side as he does it. Fraser Clark's jab goes over the top. So right now, Fraser Clark knows he's in trouble. The right hand is being loaded up. You can't really see it coming. And it comes in over the top of that lead hand again. You know, the lead hand is there as the right hand is coming in. So there's nothing that can be done by Fraser Clark. And boom, it hits him around the side of the head. Just sort of rides that shot, which is fortunate. So in showing you these little details, I think what I'm basically saying is that Wardley doesn't necessarily have to outbox Huni for full 12 rounds. He just needs to wait for the right moment to land a shot. And now I'm sure he won't go into it with the mindset of I'm just going to land one shot. But I do have reasons for saying that. To be honest with you, I've actually been told something about Justis Huni that is very interesting information. I'm not going to release it in this video. I think I will wait for my prediction video in fight week. But I have been told a detail about Huni that is apparently quite well known here in Australia. I've been told by some people here. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about that in this video because this video is about tactics, but there is a key element with Huni that I think could quite massively influence the outcome of this fight. But anyway, let's go on with the tactical breakdown. Now, the next two things I'm going to look at are weaknesses for both men. The first is Huni's high guard. I think that, it's a good defensive posture. Everybody needs to have a high guard. But I think it's a bit concerning to me how many clean shots Huni actually takes to his guard. Likewise, Wardley has his own issues with the guard, and it's actually that he doesn't really use it that much, and I'll show you what that looks like, because obviously he's not completely terrible defensively. He's able to do things to stop himself from being hit clean all the time, but I'll show you what the problem is with the high guard that Huni uses. And I'll also show you why I think Fabio Wardley might really like it. So I can actually play you this clip at full speed, because luckily for us, the fight is on DAZN. And I can just show you this highlight at the beginning here, and this kind of sums it up, right? So if you watch here, they face off at the beginning of the fight, and then we go straight into round two. And just watch, look, you see the high guard there. Let me just show you, actually. I'll show you his defensive posture and what he likes to do here in this scenario. You see he's sort of bouncing around. His hands are a little bit low. And you'll see here that the Rainer dips down. He dips down and he decides to wing in this shot here. And Huni instantly puts his gloves up. So there you go. Earmuffs are up. And it's really weird with Huni because it's like he's either like super loose or really, really tight with the high guard. And I know that's an odd thing to say, but like I think both have their issues for him. You see Lorena fires the shot, but just watch the sequence that happens. I'll just let it play. So watch, bang, bang, bang. He's pushing him back here, and look, I get it. Like he's blocking most of the shots, but a couple creep through there, and he ends up on the ropes. And the biggest problem here for Huni is that that's gonna hurt. And look, he gets hit by a clean shot there. There's something about the way that Huni gloves up when he's in his high guard. I think it's because he's trying to roll with the shots a lot and stuff. He gets hit back, and I think the problem is that the best high guards are the ones where the fighters can like take a little half step, make them miss, roll with the shots. But for some reason, when Huni gets his gloves up like that, he seems to lose a bit of his spatial awareness, and I just wonder if his vision's too covered. So he's really kind of trying to roll with the shots and stuff with them up, but he doesn't seem to be able to read things as well. Now, a moment here from the Fabio Wardley-Fraser Clark first fight, and actually it's a move that people were going crazy over from the rematch because this is essentially what started the knockout sequence, and there was clips of him practicing it with Ben Davison before the fight. But he actually did this in the first fight too, and it's something he's done in previous fights. We've seen the first fight here. Clark's lead hand, he does like to use it to kind of judge things, and it's not always right at his chin, and it's an interesting point, this, because I kind of think about it, and I'm like, right, well, if Huni's got the earmuffs on, he's got the gloves right up and nice and tight, this pull down might not work, but I know that Wardley likes the pull down, so maybe they'll practice a variation of it. The point is, though, is that even if he has the earmuffs right up because he's worried about this happening, I think that that's an issue because he can get teed off on. But anyway, let me just show you what happens here. Wardley grabs it. You see, look, he's grabbed that lead hand. He's yanked it down, so it's out the way there, and then he fires in his own right hand. Boom, and he hits Fraser Clark clean there. Lovely, lovely shot. And yeah, just to show you what I was talking about, a nice guard pull-down variation. Look how tight Adelaide's got the earmuff here. Nice and tight, right? That looks pretty solid. Doesn't look like it would be going anywhere. Watch what Wardley does here. He steps in with that lead hand, and he just latches onto it. You see, look, he grabs it right there, and he pulls it down. Watch. Yanks it right down, and he instantly fires. You can see it sort of menacingly staring Adelaide down the pipe, fires it in, boom, and he hits him on the chin. And that guard manipulation that he does, where he grabs your hands, he pulls them out the way, he fires in shots, it's real clever boxing, and it's something that probably not enough fighters use. Again, these things I'm showing you so far, they are things that Ben Davison fighters definitely utilize. I've seen Atalma doing it. He pulls the guard down, he goes to the body, feints low, makes you drop your hands, fires up top. All the stuff I'm showing you so far is stuff that I've seen Wardley doing, and I think it pairs very, very nicely with the things that Huni has tendencies towards. Okay, so now I'm going to illustrate to you what Fabio Wardley's major weakness is as I perceive it, and how he sort of toes the line, why he's such an exciting fighter. So the reality of Wardley's defense for me is that he doesn't really block that many shots, and I'd actually go as far as to say is he kind of uses his face to block a lot of punches. He will pull back ever so slightly and ride shots, but he uses those moments as an opportunity to counter and fire back, thereby kind of making his opponent a little bit apprehensive to throw because they know no matter what they do, something's probably coming back unless you really hit him hard. But I'll show you here because in this fight, in the Fraser Clark #1 fight, which was, it was a very close fight, I felt Fraser Clark used the jab very nicely and showed what is something of a limitation of Fabio Wardley's for me. But at the same time, it's also how Fabio Wardley is a strong fighter. So I will always counterbalance this whole part of the video by saying that if you can exploit this, you can make it a weakness, but it's also what makes Wardley so good. It's what makes him great. It's got him where he is without the large amateur schooling that most heavyweight pros have. So you see here, they're just both facing off. Wardley always has his lead hand quite low. It's around there. And this one's at his chin. His hand is at his chin. But you're going to see that the hand is there, but it often doesn't do much because you see his forehead is exposed, as most fighters would be. But the idea is to get out the way or block things, and it just doesn't really work that way for him. So watch, as they're standing here, Clark steps in with a jab, and he hits him clean. You see this hand here? It hasn't moved one bit. And because his lead hand is, sort of loose and out there somewhere, it just means that that jab can get through quite easily. So that lands nice and clean. But you see Wardley leans back as he takes it. So he takes some of the sting off it. And this is what I'd say about Wardley. If I just take this back slightly. His inclination to defend is just to go straight backwards here. He doesn't really take a step. He just absorbs it, stays where he is. I think this moment is relevant for Huni, and I say that because he has got fast hands, and I think that he can take advantage of this in Fabio Wardley's game. So watch again. You see the gloves there. Hand is low. Now watch what happens. Clark steps in, and Wardley comes with the jab. It half lands, but Clark lands his own much cleaner jab there. So you can catch him as you step in or as he steps in because that guard is never really there. So lands one. Wardley takes a step straight back. You'll see he goes back the whole way. Clark lands two, half lands it, and then he's gone straight back again, and then he dips down. Clark just keeps following him in a straight line. He's still going straight. And look where his hands are. Low. His right hand, it might be at his chin there, maybe. But look, Clark then fires on a right hand and lands a clean right hand to the side of Wardley's head. And it's all because he's just moving backwards in a straight line with, low hands, basically. And just to show you here, because this is what I'm talking about, these three clips sum it up perfectly. Because you think, I figured him out. He's moving back in straight lines. I'll follow him in. So watch what happens here. Clark steps in with the jab here, hits him on the chin. Look, the problem here is that Clark doesn't bring his hand back high enough. And Wardley just goes for the counter. So watch, steps in, hits him on the chin, pulls back, boom, right hand on the chin of Clark. And it's Clark who comes up worse there as a result of that moment. This is the knife edge that he walks along Fabio Wardley. He's going to take shots to give shots, and those three clips sum it up perfectly. First clip shows you how he gets hit by a jab because of the way he naturally defends, and so that's a scoring shot for Clark. Second clip showed you the worst case scenario, continuing to go back in straight lines and eventually eating a big shot. Third clip shows you the beauty of it all, which is that, I'm going to go back in a straight line, but guess what? I'm going to crack you with this right hand as you step in to try and follow me. So it's the ferociousness, it's the bravery. That's what defines Fabio Wardley. So this weakness is also a strength. And just to show you another limitation of the way Wardley defends, I believe it makes him quite susceptible to lead left hooks from orthodox fighters. And I actually think that Huni's got a great lead left hook. Very, very fast. Watch what happens here against Adelaide. Again, I showed you, it's this backhand here from Wardley. Again, it sits in that position. It's not a very active hand. It doesn't really move much. It stays sat at his chin. But watch what happens here with Adelaide. So he drops his lead hand. He dips down. He comes with that lead left hook. And you see Wardley doesn't really react. And normally he'd maybe take a little lean back or something. But even the lean back is a bit of an issue. If his opponent gets his front foot close enough, if you're going straight backwards, the chin is still there. And also, when he does the lean back, often his hands drop. But anyway, you see that he hooks right around it and he cracks him on the chin there. And this lead left hook was a good tool for David Adelaide in this fight. He didn't land it often, but they probably were some of the best shots that he did land. Again here, this is sort of a jab come hook. But again, look, that right hand's there. Again, lead hand's low. His stance is always the same. Watch, he just takes a little step in. Watch, as he steps this foot, it's almost a bit of a gazelle hook, but he straightens this one up slightly, and boom, he just fires it in there. And again, look, this is a great example with Wardley, because look, it hits him on the chin. His head goes back, because he always just does that lean backwards. His instinct is to whip that right hand in, because so many fighters drop their lead hand. So many do it. It's always a good opportunity, and then he just misses, but so close. This is what I'm talking about. Such good fighting instincts. He gets hit, he fires back. And again, because of Wardley's guard, this is another thing that happens quite regularly, is that I see him step in and getting hit by a jab. I showed you just before when it happened in the Clark fight. It was part of some of the other things I was showing you. But watch with Adelaide here. Wardley steps in. Boom, he gets hit right on the chin. And Adelaide takes a bit of a shot there too, but Wardley was the one who took it a bit cleaner. Again here, look at the guard position. It's just not really there. As he steps in, Adelaide just steps forward with the jab right up the middle and times him. And it's that shot. It's the fact that the shot's right up the middle that I find troubling. All you got to do is fire right up the line, and the opportunity should be there as he steps to you. Another issue with this guard of Wardley, and this was prominent in Clark 1. We didn't have enough time in Clark 2 to find out if it was still a problem or if he made the adjustments, but he's very susceptible to uppercuts. And that was something Fraser Clark showed us in this fight. Really, really susceptible to uppercuts. And the reason is because, I believe, again, these hands don't move. But the big issue is that if you look at his elbows, they're sort of flared out, which means there's this space right up the middle here. So if you watch the mechanics of this, Clark steps in, gets his head off to the side, so the jab misses from Fabio Wardley. He does actually get it back pretty quickly. But look, again, they're so open, his elbows, that can just go straight up the middle. And boom, he cracks him on the chin. In this instance, he actually has his guard a bit higher than I'm used to seeing it. But again, you see the elbows are flared right out, so there's a big space to the body. But anyway, and you can actually see the gap in the middle. Look, you can see a little window just there in the middle. Anyway, the problem here is actually a couple of things. He actually attacks from too far out. So he steps in. Clark does a really nice job here. So he leads off with the jab, which it sort of half lands. But look, Clark's just taken a step back. Wardley's overreached a little bit. So you see he falls short here. And the issue, again, because he always seems to bring his jab back kind of low, it's coming in low. It's slumped there. And as he pulls back into position, Clark's already loading the uppercut. He does get his hands up, but again, they're not really in position. He lands a really nice uppercut again there. And this one's interesting because Wardley's actually ended up in the pocket with a high guard, just to show you how ineffective his high guard is in this scenario. You see here, look, watch. He dips his head down, and Clark knows, that elbow's not even as flat out, but look, it should be more, it should just be more tucked in. It's still sticking out too much. The gap is still right up the middle there. And Clark fires it up. Boom, it goes straight through and hits him on the chin again. It's not super powerful, but it's enough that it's going to sting. It's not going to be a comfortable thing to take. So I feel like, to be fair, I've not really shown you enough stuff that Huni does well yet. And this is a great moment talking about that guard from Wardley or lack thereof. And I think that Huni has got a nice jab, a nice lead hook. So watch here. He jabs in there, and then he often will, it's something for Wardley to look out for. He often baits that right hand to throw the left hook, so you can kind of see it coming at times. But he baits that right hand, and watch, he just slings that left hook in. So I like that. It's the jab. The jab allows him to get close. So you could just imagine, try and picture Fabio Wardley here. He's taken his lean back there. So rather than standing still, he may have stood still, but he'll have leaned back slightly potentially. So he'll have got there with the jab. He'll have stayed in position and then fires in this nice left hook. And most likely, Fabio Wardley's guard won't be that high when that left hook goes in. And then this is the real fancy bit. Dips his head down, pivots off. And it's absolutely beautiful. And that would probably negate any right hand being fired back as well. That little pivot off that he did there is very nice. But what I will say is, to go back, is that if Wardley is pull countering from the jab, so say Huni steps in, jab's there. Let's suppose Wardley has, at that point there, pulled back. He's in a pull counter position. If Huni goes to throw a left hook there, like that, boom, straight shot down the middle. And I have seen this with some other fighters where they like to sort of check hook or pull counter, straight shots to the cure, man. Straight shots to the cure, because you get there faster than they will, and your shoulder can come up and protect your chin, which negates the left hook even if it does land. So it's a risky moment for Huni, that. It really is. I think that the left lead hook, as I showed you before, can be a good tool, but maybe not off the jab. But don't worry, because he has got a good lead hook as well. And I'll just let this slow motion sequence play, to be fair. So look, watch. Lovely uppercut through the middle of the guard there. Huni's very good at throwing off those angles. Again, in the clinch here, boom, really quickly fires that lead hook to the chin. Nice clean shot. And again there, a nice left hook. And, I know these are up close, but Huni's definitely got the speed to fire them from any range. That left hook there is to break the guard, and he fires the right hand. Now, a lot of the stuff he's doing there is working the guard. And as I said, Wardley doesn't really have a guard to work. So he can probably just throw. He doesn't need to be as cute at manipulating the guard as he did in this fight. He can just sling. And I think that he'll be able to land. But he's just got to be really careful that he's getting his hands up after he does that. And I just don't know if that discipline is there. That's the biggest issue I have that I worry about with Huni. But yeah, I showed you at the beginning of the video those highlight reel moments, and I'll put some in here as well, of Huni's fast hands, those bent arm shots. He does like to throw them. He throws them with great speed as part of combinations. And he can definitely lead off with that single lead hook as well. Uppercut as well. He just is a good bent arm punch fighter. And I think his variety in combinations will definitely cause Wardley problems if the foot speed can match it, if he can keep up with Wardley, which I think he can. I think he probably does have slightly faster feet than Wardley does. I think one thing that worries me about Huni is, I've spoke about the great lateral movement, but he does often sit on the ropes as well. If you can get him there, he will sit there with that high guard. And with Wardley being the great finisher that he is, as shown against Fraser Clark, particularly in that second fight, that beautiful guard pull down to start it all off, and then just completely took him out. Monster punches, very Deontay Wilder-esque in how it's a bit wild and a bit loose, but so powerful. I think that that's a big concern for Justis Huni, I believe anyway. But it is that recklessness, that willingness from Wardley to take a shot, to give a shot, to really go for a finish that could actually play in Huni's favor. That's why there's always a chance, if you're a Fabio Wardley opponent and you can punch and you got some speed, that you're going to get in trouble. I think one of the most concerning things for me about Huni is that there's a reason this has played out the way it has. Everything I've shown you in this video from a real detailed technical standpoint is actually to do with Fabio Wardley, and it kind of sums up what I see these two guys as. I think that Huni is the much more raw talent in the sense of he's probably got higher talent than Fabio Wardley does. You know, he's got the really fast hands. He looks slick. He's got the boxing footwork. But I think that Wardley is the one who's made the most of everything he has been really effectively drilled by Davison and Wiley, and has got tactics and things that I can actually pick out and say he's doing that, he's doing that. With Huni, it's a lot more dipping in the pocket, much more instinctive, much more firing different combinations and seeing what comes off. But that's come at the price of there being some fairly obvious holes, I believe. Now, Wardley's holes are there too, to be found. You can definitely see gaps in his defense too. And I believe that it'll be Huni's natural instinct that will be able to capitalize on those. So it's very much a balance of rough diamond in Huni versus sort of Wardley, who is also obviously very, very talented, but he's really been polished up with specific techniques, and he's really more of a fighter than a slick boxer. I kind of see this as a warrior fighter against a slick boxer. That's kind of how I view this one. But because Wardley adds such nous to that warring that he brings to the ring, that's what makes him so dangerous for me. As I showed you, Wardley can sometimes overthrow, but so can Huni. Huni can sometimes overcommit, and he ends up with this low guard. Wardley does the same thing, and I do think that this will come down to who can control the range. You know, if Huni can keep his guard nice, if he can time things nicely, if he can bring Wardley to him, I think he can time him on the way in with the jab, as I showed you. I think there'll be lead hook opportunities. And I think it's the same thing for Fabio Wardley. He'll be wanting Huni to get carried away, fire him with his loose offense that he normally has, and he'll look to take advantage of that. So I would not be surprised to see one man outboxing the other and then a clean shot being landed that changes the fight in one direction or another. What I will say is this, and I'll talk more about this in my prediction video, because there is something, as I said, there's a piece of information I've been given about Huni that I think could decide the fight. But I think one big issue that is clear for everyone to see at this stage is Justis Huni's experience level is not the same as Fabio Wardley's. Wardley's is still not huge, but Huni's is way lower, way, way lower. So it's hard to even tell what level he's at, as flashy as he does look, as good as he does look. We also need to talk about punching power, we need to talk about chin, we need to talk about a lot of different factors and intangibles, but I will do all of that in my prediction video later this week. Guys, thank you very much for watching this tactical analysis video all the way to the end. It really helps the channel to grow. The video will do far more views if you stick with me all the way to the end of the video. So to those of you that have made this far, I'm very appreciative and grateful. I just want to make it really clear as well. I know this video has been quite heavy in favor of Fabio Wardley, and it's not because I'm biased for Fabio Wardley at all. I really don't care who wins. I just want the best fighter to win. It simply comes down to the fact that it's much easier for me to analyze what Wardley's doing because I think it's more contrived, whereas I think Huni really is reacting to what's happening in front of him. So it's not as tactically readable, but I can show you mistakes he makes that I think Wardley will prepare for. I hope that makes sense. I hope that does make sense. But I'm very aware of the boxing ability of Huni and what he is able to do. I think, as I said before, in the prediction video that I do, there's some intangibles and some things that I want to talk about that they're not tactics related, that will really play into my making a decision for this one. I don't know if this video has made my mind up. I know it seems like I'm leaning towards Wardley because of the way I've described this, but there are some really important intangibles and factors that I will get into in that final prediction video. But guys, I hope you've enjoyed this one. Do bang a like on it if you've liked it. Do subscribe to a guy called Henry. Get your comments in below. Who do you think is going to win this fight? Do become a member if you want to support the channel. I hope you've enjoyed this one. And as I always say, guys, on to the next one.